that I met Nicco and a group of people who were basically thrown together in a Gilligan's Island party of a bunch of people who didn't know each other, who were sort of forcibly introduced, and I knew this is the guy I wanted to be in touch with and be with, and you'll figure that out. So with that, I told you, I figured I had to start from the beginning. Is that all right?
Sure.
That's where you start. Alex, tell us, if you would, why you wrote the book, why the book was needed, and generally what the main thesis is that you want us to take away.
Thanks. Andy, I wanted to say before I answer that question, I'm really very, very happy to be here, and there are no two people I respect more than Nicco and Andy. I am very honored to be asked. Andy told me he was going to ask that question, and I've been trying to think of exactly what I should say to you. And I think the best way to capture why I wrote this book is the Duke Cunningham story, which some of you probably are familiar with. The Copley News Service in Washington a few years ago had two reporters, beat reporters covering Congress, and they began working in their daily rounds, really. They were not a special investigatory team. They started doing work on looking at the practices of Randy Duke Cunningham, one of the most powerful Republicans in the Congress, and how he had made some choices and decisions. What they discovered was that he was a crook, a total crook. He's now in jail. He was selling out the American government for money, and they did the research, and the San Diego Union did the story, and Duke Cunningham was indicted and went to jail. And if they had not done their investigation, it simply would not have happened. Well, they won a Pulitzer Prize. Both of them did. By 2007, I believe, the Copley Bureau, maybe 2008, I don't know, it had simply disappeared. It was gone. They were gone. The San Diego Union was gone for all practical purposes, having been sold to a group of people that, from all appearances, bought it as a financial play and are trying to make as much money on its sort of decline as they possibly can. And the journalism that was being done by this newspaper basically has virtually disappeared from San Diego. It has been replaced, to the extent that it has been replaced, by a new media, startup, digital, highly respected new digital news organization called Voice of San Diego. But the Voice of San Diego is having a hard time financially, and it is not the front page of the local newspaper. Now, my point is this. This was happening all over the country, is happening, has happened, continues to happen all over the country. My concern about what's happening is not about digital technology per se. I believe in digital technology, but digital technology, whether you believe in it or a fan of it as I am or not, it's like being a fan of the weather. It really doesn't matter. The issue is how you respond to it and how you adapt to it and what you do to prevent catastrophic things from happening and to be able to function comfortably despite whatever that weather is. My view is that digital technology is having as one of its side effects the decimation of institutional journalism that is, I believe, critical. And by that, I don't mean conversation and commentary. I mean fact-based news of verification reporting. Two of the great compliments, the best compliments I've ever gotten on my book was when I asked Nicco, my colleague at the Shorenstein Center, to read the manuscript, and I went in to talk to him about it, and he said, before it was published, and he said, well, you persuaded me that there is actually a need for professional journalism. And I was very glad of that. But the other one was one that I got about a month ago, and it was an email from a young reporter on the San Diego Voice who said, I was so glad that you wrote this book because it reminded me of what journalism is about and what it's for. My concern is not that there is a digital world aborting. It's happening, and it has many, many wonderful, wonderful things about it. What I'm concerned about is that what we also need, this core of reported news, is in great jeopardy, and I think is very much hanging in the balance. And at the same time, it is eroding the institutions that provide the delivery system that has significant impact for that kind of news are also, in jeopardy. They're not disappearing. I think their demise has been over anticipated in some quarters. But I think that there's no question that it is jeopardized, and I believe that it is in our interest, no matter our political beliefs, of all Americans, that this journalistic core endure. That's why I wrote the book.
Alex, let me just follow quickly. So earlier today, you and I were talking about sort of the stuff that gets the headlines is more national stuff and big picture stuff and whatever. You were talking about state-based information that actually happens at the state level and how that's being eroded.
Well, this raises what you've touched on is a very interesting issue from many dimensions, because increasingly, because of digital technology, people like Google and others that are delivering a news package that is tailored to an individual and is focused on their interests is much more likely to present a story about what happened on the street corner, an accident, than people starving in Africa. But it is also true that in state capitals all over the country, the news resources for reporting serious news have been greatly diminished. At the same time, based on one of our fellows' research projects last semester at Harvard, he looked into what the impact of this was on the people who are actually in state government, office holders, staff members, and that kind of thing. And he did surveys of all states. He got responses from an array of people representing about 46 states. And what he found was two interesting things. One, they still depend on the mainstream media. They may get their information from the mainstream media digitally, because all of these news organizations have a digital face now. It's very important. But two, the thing that was rather surprising to me was that the startups, these new ventures, many with talented reporters doing serious work, are very, very modestly monitored, at least by the people who responded to this survey. Now, that was not a scientific survey. I don't mean to say that it's authoritative, but I think that it points to a critical distinction. It's not just a matter of doing the journalism. It's a matter of having it noticed. It's a matter of having an impact. And the mainstream media is the mechanism still, and will continue to be, for delivering that impact. But it doesn't guarantee that they're going to give the attention and call your attention to the things that are most important. So, this is a complicated world we're in. It has more information available than ever in history, but that doesn't mean that your attention is being drawn to the things that you as citizens and we as citizens need, or that there is enough of this kind of reporting out there. I mean, the story on the front page of the Washington Post today is about General McChrystal. The thing that made that story powerful was the reporting. It was a reported story. Now, Rolling Stone's been doing a lot of journalism, but it was the fact that this individual journalist got this information, put it out there. It was a news story. It was based on fact. It was based on interviews and time and being embedded. That kind of thing is expensive, it's difficult, and increasingly,